Hey English classes, this is a short lesson on some course how-tos. We primarily use Google Docs and Google Classroom and then our email system. And part of what I want this lesson to do is get everyone in the habit of some rhythms or just how to do things using those resources. So the learning target for today is I can correctly and consistently follow course guidelines and expectations. We'll start with assignment details on Google Classroom. So most often, when I post an assignment or a question to Google Classroom, I'll also post the full details of that assignment or question to Classroom as well. So you can see there, ignore kind of the specifics of the actual assignment there. That's just a test or an example one. But it says 3: rhetoric brainstorming assignment. And you can see the due date and then the points it's worth. But then there's that long description, and that actually explains what the assignment is, what you're asked to do, all the kind of explanations that you would normally get on an assignment sheet or something like that. So this is where it lives. Part of what I expect you to do is to fully and thoroughly read the assignment details for every classroom post or assignment, and then let me know if you have any questions. If you ask a question that is clearly stated somewhere on the assignment details, I typically won't answer it, and I'll just direct you to here instead. So it's really important to just make sure that you've read these things first before you ask any questions. Everything you need to know should be in there, and if they're not, then I'm happy to step in and help you out. But this is where all the explanations for assignments and questions will be on Google Classroom. Sometimes, like you can see right there, there's a Google Doc attached to the assignment. Sometimes there might be an actual assignment sheet attached to a Classroom post, and if that's the case, then just open up the Google Doc and read the assignment details there. I also want to let you know, just to be mindful of due dates. You can see here on Classroom again, it's a different assignment, but you can see on the right where it's highlighted, it says due August 28th, 9 a.m. Now those are all example dates and times, so don't worry about them. But you want to be mindful of all of your due dates on Classroom. Students are expected to submit assignments and work in the correct place and at the correct time. So that means that if it says it's due August 28th at 9 a.m., by the time the clock hits 9 a.m., your assignment has to be in there. And if it's any time after the clock hits 9 a.m., it's considered late. And then that falls within our late work policy for the course. Something else that you're expected to do is fully read and review all rubric information for each assignment and classroom post. I'm going to go back a couple slides. You can see on assignment and question posts, near the bottom there, it says rubric, 4 criteria, 10 points. So that's where you can find and actually open up the rubric. And once you click on that, it brings you to something that looks like this. And this is where all the criteria for each rubric is broken down. It tells you how many points you can earn, the explanation for all the different criteria. I try and post a rubric for just about all assignments, questions, writing responses, kind of whatever you end up doing for this course, there should be a rubric attached to it. So it is very important to open up the rubrics, read, make sure you understand what's being asked of you, because these are the rubrics I use to grade and evaluate your work. So it's important to know what I'm evaluating you on the front end. This is a very important one. So on Google Classroom, you can do private comments, and I'm sure you're probably familiar with them already, but, and so I've blacked out the student example here, but when you submit something, this is what I see on my end. I see your name, and if I click on your name on the left there, you can see that I have the opportunity to add a private comment, and private comment means only you can see it. So I communicate some pretty important things through private comments, and that could be information about your grade. It could be questions I have for you. It could be feedback, like, hey, you're doing this really well in this assignment. Here's where you can improve a little bit, or here's where you did not meet standards, or here's where you did. So all that kind of stuff often gets thrown into the private comments on Google Classroom. And so students are expected to fully read and, when appropriate or necessary, respond to private comments. So, like I said, there's some pretty important information that goes in the private comments for each individual assignment or Google Classroom question just about every time. And so you'll want to be sure to read them and respond. And kind of similarly, on the actual Google Docs, I'll often add comments. These could be questions about your work, question about something you've written, could be feedback, could be information about your grade, could just be, just general feedback as well. But you're also expected to, along with kind of pulling up the assignment and looking in the private comments and reading and responding there, you're also expected to open up the Google Doc, like the actual Google Doc that you've submitted for your work, and read through any comments that might be on there too. And so you can see on the right there, what I do is I highlight the text I want to make a comment about, I right click it and hit comment, And then you should be able to either A, resolve that comment, which just means make it go away, or B, you can actually reply to the comment. And so sometimes I might ask you a question where I'm waiting for your response on something that will help me grade your work or clarify something for me. So be sure to read and respond to comments just like on the private comment section there. So, and then one of the last ones here is email expectations. So this is something that I know you've already been taught, but we'll just kind of do a quick review. Whenever you send me an email, part of the expectations are that you have a relevant subject. And so you can see there I have an arrow and it shows you where the subject actually shows up in the email, what it is. It's a good kind of general rule of thumb to whenever you're sending an email, do your best to let the recipient know what the email is going to be about in the subject line. So here it says course how-to assignment. So after the subject, you want to have an appropriate opening or greeting, kind of like how you wouldn't just go into a conversation with someone and just say like, I need this, or you ask a question. You want to say, hey, how's it going? Quick question for you. You typically want to have some greeting, and just something as simple as like Mr. Burka, or good morning, or good afternoon, or something very simple like that is totally fine. But you want to have some kind of opening and greeting to your email, and then you can actually write the content of your email, and then you want to have an appropriate closing and signature. So something like thank you or sincerely, pretty standard stuff that I know you're familiar with already, just a good reminder. You want to revise, so read through your email a couple times and revise it and edit it for typos or grammar things. Like make sure and read through it and make sure it actually makes sense to you. And then be careful of tone. Just like when I'm emailing my boss or other adults or things like that, or anyone really, you want to make sure that the tone is respectful and formal, and that it's not too casual. So part of the expectation is that whenever you're emailing me, and hopefully other teachers too, the tone that you're using in your email is respectful and formal, and you're following all these other guidelines too. So that's it, students. There's obviously a lot more kind of rules and general procedures and guidelines that we'll go over throughout the course of the year as we get to them, but these are just some very foundational basic things to help us get going at the start of the year. Please let me know if you have any questions, and part of the assignment that I'm going to tack onto this is I actually want you to go through and practice all of these instances, and just like this lesson taught, all of the explanation or details of what you're supposed to do are waiting for you in classroom. So thank you, students, and I'll see you next time.